The young security officer barely looked up when she approached the gate. He glanced at her uniform plain, unmarked, intentionally low-profiled, let out a quiet laugh. "ID?" he said, leaning back in his chair with a smirk. "Or are you lost, ma'am?" His tone wasn't hateful, just careless, the kind used on people he assumed had no power. Didn't he know that the woman standing before him had commanded units he'd only read about in classified briefings? He didn't know she'd led rescues, survived storms, and stood in war zones where silence meant death. And he certainly didn't know that she was a SEAL commander. Her name was Commander Alina Ward, and she simply stared back at him, calm, but disappointed. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're rewatching from. I love knowing who's listening. The officer's fingers tapped impatiently on the desk. He didn't see the subtle tension in her jaw, the way her breath steadied, as if preparing for something far heavier than an insult. All he saw was a woman who didn't look like someone who belonged there. And maybe she thought that was exactly why people like him needed this lesson. Alina had never cared about rank. Not truly. She cared about discipline, humility, and the quiet strength that separated real soldiers from pretenders. Yet part of her felt a sting, a familiar one. The sting of being judged before being known. She had endured it in training, in missions, and even in halls lined with people who should have understood better. Behind her, a small group of junior recruits gathered, whispering among themselves. They had no idea who she was either. Only that she carried herself with the stillness of someone who knew every inch of danger and didn't fear it. He didn't even read the name. Instead, he snorted. "Commander." "You're right, you print this on the internet or something." A murmur rippled through the recruits. Alina didn't flinch, simply let the silence hang heavy, tense, almost electric. Breeze swept across the concrete, carrying the distant thrum of training drills and the faint scent of oil from the motor pool. The officer shifted, stuffing the card back at her with a shrug. "Look, lady, don't waste my time. If you want a tour, go through visitor processing." Her eyes softened. Sadness, not anger, because this wasn't about her pride. It was about what he lacked: respect, awareness, and the simple discipline of doing his job properly. Before she could respond, a sudden shout erupted behind the gate. "Commander on deck." Every recruit snapped into formation instantly. The arrogant officer shot up from his seat as if the ground had burned him. His face drained of color. And there, stepping toward her, was Admiral James Rourke, her former commanding officer. A man who had seen her crawl through mud, drag wounded teammates from collapsing buildings, and stare down insurgents without a tremor. Rourke didn't hesitate. He saluted her first. "Commander Ward," he said, voice echoing across the courtyard. "Welcome back." The officer's knees wobbled. His mouth opened, then closed again, unable to form a single excuse. The recruits watched in stunned silence. Alina held her salute, then lowered her hand with grace. Her gaze shifted to the officer, who now stood trembling. He whispered, barely audible, "Ma'am, I didn't know." "Exactly," she replied gently. "You didn't know? That's why respect should never be optional." Her words hit harder than any punishment. The Admiral approached her side, beginning the readiness demonstration. "Care to lead them?" She nodded once. Moments later, the training field erupted into motion. Alina guided the recruits with calm, precise commands. Movements synchronized. Boots struck the ground like a drumline. Ropes swung, metal clanged, and the recruits moved as one, pushed, tested, transformed under her watchful eye. The officer stood far in the back, shame heating his cheeks, but he didn't look away. He watched the woman he had mocked guide an entire unit with the quiet authority of someone who had earned every ounce of respect she carried. The climax arrived at the final drill, a coordinated breaching maneuver. Under Alina's voice, the recruits moved like a tide flowing sweeping, clearing the course with a unity that stunned even Rourke. When the last target dropped, the courtyard erupted in applause. Alina didn't smile with pride. She smiled with relief, because they had listened, learned, and grown. She turned to the officer. Instead of anger, she offered something unexpected: kindness. "Next time," she said softly, "assume the person in front of you has a story you don't know yet. It will make you a better soldier and a better man." "Yes, ma'am." Because kindness doesn't vanish, it waits, and it finds its way back. And as Alina walked across the base, the same breeze that once carried tension now carried something gentler, as if the day itself acknowledged the quiet power she had brought with her. If this story moved you, subscribe to Whispered Words for more powerful tales, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice makes this community stronger. You won't want to miss the next story.